Actually, she might specialize in being a pediatrician.
So a strong performance for Carrie Strug in the second round, and now she's yelling across the gym at her teammate, Chris Waller. Chris is getting ready to perform on high bar, which is one of his best events and one of the events where he has his highest level of difficulty. Of course, this American pair not only needs to finish in the top 3, but they have to beat Miller and Ringnauld to move on into the final round. He needs an 8.2 for them to take the lead so far in this round. His releases. And again. Well done. This routine seems like a marathon. It's long. Obviously, he has to do that to fulfill all the requirements. Here's the big dismount. Double-double. Whoa! That's the best landing I've ever seen out of Chris Waller.
Talk about putting the pressure on. Only one American pair can move on to the third round. And that puts a lot of pressure on Shannon and Lance.
Let's take a look at the release moves. This is the reverse hecht. Right into the Ginger, the combination. Well done there. And the dismount, it's very difficult to keep your body square while there's so much flipping and twisting going on. But he really squares it up and lands right on top of it. That's the best I've ever seen him do that. So as we wait for the scores for Carrie Strug and Chris Waller, keep in mind that they trail Miller and Ringnauld by .017. Their scores are 9.687 for Carrie Strug and a 9.333, a little low it seems, for Chris Waller on the high bar, 38.053. That puts him in first place in this round, but keep in mind there's a lot of pressure coming on the other American pair, Shannon Miller and Lance Ringnauld.
Welcome back on Yelena Piskun.
Now we move over to the vault. This is Yelena Piskun from Belarus.
This should be very exciting. This is where the team from Belarus can move up. Double twist. Oh! She landed with her feet a little bit one in front of the other, but that is a tough vault. It's worth a 10.0.
That is the highest rated vault that we've seen today from the women competing here.
Keep in mind, Carrie's and Shannon's both are worth a 9.8 maximum. Double twist. She really worked for that landing because she was coming in a little bit short. And she pulled it out.
So keep that in mind tonight as we go on through the competition, especially for the men.
She'll perform the same vault again. Really, she's going to try and improve on that. Keep the legs together, land with them together. Get a little bit higher.
We are now ready
off the horse so she can finish the flip and the twist in time for a better landing.
9.775 is the score for the first vault for Piskun.
Much better ball. You can see she landed a little bit farther away from the horse. It's a little more stretched in the air. Didn't have to pike down quite as much.
Well, there's a whole lot going on in the air in this vault.
And it happens in a very short amount of time. Right there, 1, 2, and she really pulls that second one around.
We are now ready for the other competitor from Belarus.
Score 9.80, as you said, a little bit better. So we'll take the average of those two vaults and add them to the score from Vitaly Sherbo, who's getting ready now to go on the floor exercise. And this performance here could prove to be one of the highlights of the evening. He is one of the most spectacular tumblers in the world. Watch this first move. Laid out, full out, and he totally nailed it. We've seen Scherbo even use a double twisting, double layout to open his routine.
Which is why that looked so easy. It was for him.
He has such a feel for the presentation of the routine. Never in a hurry, shows really powerful tumbling. If he scores a 9.333 or higher, they will take the lead over Carrie Strug and Chris Waller in this round. There's a scale on 1 foot. That is a requirement. And here's his last tumbling pass. Laid out double back. Oh! A big jump on the landing, something you don't see from Vitaly Scherbo.
That's a tough dismount. Double laid out somersault. Most gymnasts open their floor routines with a skill like that.
It's interesting, we were talking to him when he arrived today. He arrived late because he's tending to his newborn child, and he said, I don't sleep, I change diapers all night long, so perhaps he is excused this week anyway. And his last tumbling run, you can see what happens here. This is, as you mentioned, Kathy, one of the most difficult moves to do at the end of the routine.
And normally he does not break form at all, and you can see his knees are a little bit bent, slightly apart, not much. You could tell he was working more than he usually does. He has to take a giant step forward, but he kept his hands off the ground.
The winner of 6 gold medals in Barcelona, a record. The score for Scherbo is a 9.333. So even with that error on the last tumbling pass for Vitaly Scherbo, that does move them into first place in the second round of competition with a 38.086. After such a phenomenal success for Shannon Miller, winner of 5 medals at the Olympics in Barcelona, Kathy talked to her about how tough was it to get back in the gym after those Olympics.
After the Olympics, I only had about a couple days off, so it was a little bit easier to get back into gymnastics then, because it didn't really feel like I should stop or anything. But then I went on a tour for about 5 or 6 weeks, and I worked out during the tour, but not quite as much as normal. And so after the tour, it's been a little bit harder to get back into full sets in top shape.
Here are your leaders after the first round of competition, Shannon Miller and Lance Ringnauld. Shannon will be vaulting in this round. Kathy, as you mentioned, Shannon gave us a thrill in Barcelona, nailing the best vault of her life in the finals of the all-around.
It certainly showed us she could handle the pressure. The pressure's on here. Oh! A very uncharacteristic step.
Now this is an interesting point because with the new rules, remember in the past the gymnasts take the best of the 2 vaults. Because they're averaging these vaults, that could hurt them today.
This vault is worth a 9.8, and that is a minimum of 1/10 of a point on that step, and that's a large step, so they really can take a little bit more.
An excellent student. Let that be a lesson to you, young gymnasts. You can perform in the gym and also get a 4.0 grade point average.
I think it's important to note here for particularly the people that saw Shannon compete at the Olympics and watch her perform 16 for 16 perfect routines. It's very difficult to maintain that level of intensity.
9.65 was the score for her first vault. She'll need to do better here.
Much better. A little hot for her, but she's much happier with that vault. So I see a little look of worry on her face. Not sure if it's going to be enough.
Was the recipient of the 1992 Newbern Comeback Award.
You can see she's a little short on the front end of the horse.
Suffered dislocation
Just a little hop on the landing.
We were talking to Shannon the other day. She said before the Olympics she had a micro screw put in her elbow before the games, and she said she had it taken out the other day, and she said, what about a micro screw? She said the thing was about 2 inches long.
I don't see how it fit in that tiny elbow.
9.70 is the score for her second vault, so those will be averaged and added to the score now of Lance Ringnold, who's going to perform on the still rings. A lot of pressure here on Lance, because I have to admit, this is not one of Lance's best events. He'll have to be very solid here if he hopes to move into the final round along with Shannon Miller. He needs a score of 9.33 or better. He opens with a flange, kip to a plange. Looks a little bit more like a Maltese. It's a very low plange. All of the gymnasts looking for ways of fulfilling the bonus requirements to get the big scores. There is one of the requirements, a swing to a handstand, and the dismount is a full twisting double back in the tucked position. Now it'll be very interesting to see what the judges do with that routine, because it was not packed with difficulty. Remember, a 9.33 will move them ahead of Strug and Waller into the final round of competition. A 9.366 will move them into the overall lead in this competition.
1988 and 1992. That's back in 1988 in the tender age of 18.
Here's the dismount. It's a double back with a full twist in the tucked position. One of the more common dismounts right now,
Taking a little bit of time.
and will not get him any bonus points.
Oh man, I can hear everything. Happy birthday.
For Shannon Miller, the United States on women's vault, 9.675.
So the score for Shannon Miller, a 9.675 on the vault. The score on the rings for Lance Ringnold, only a 9.30. So they get bumped out of the second round of competition, will not go on to the finals. The American team to represent in the finals is Carrie Strug and Chris Waller. A big disappointment for the 5-time Olympic medalist to not make it to the final round. So here are your results after the second round of competition. The final 3 teams that go on into the third round are Piskun and Sherbo from Belarus with a 38.086. Strug and Waller from the United States with a 38.053. And actually, Miller and Ringnold would be in third place normally, but because only one American pair is allowed to go on into the final round of competition, the pair from China moves in, He and Lee, with a 36.903. So here are your finalists, the top 3 that move on into the third round of competition. From Belarus, Piskun and Sherbo with a 38.086. Strug and Waller from the United States with a 38.053. It's very close. And from China, He and Lee, 36.903. Well, Kathy, as we get ready for the third and final round of competition, the American pair of Strug and Waller are .033 behind the team from Belarus. Can they catch them?
Carrie has chosen balance beam for her last event. That's very, very risky, but she has been solid. She hit at the American Cup. Piskun is excellent on the uneven bars, so it's hard to say. They're really, really close. And He Mei is superb on balance beam, but I think she's going to miss some bonus points there, so that's going to hurt her.
And the Chinese are really too far behind to challenge the top 2 spots, so we'll see what happens.
I know we're like...
On the uneven bars, this is Piskun. She has a really unusual style, and what a big move she has coming up here.
Absolutely beautiful. 4.5 twisting release move. She's very aggressive on this event.
I'll say.
You can see she loses a little bit of form. But the level of difficulty is superb.
How about the technique on these giant swings? This is something really different.
She doesn't pipe through like most people do. And unfortunately, it caused her to bend her legs on that second giant, which will be a form deduction on the dismount, and also the step backwards. It'll be interesting to see what the judges do with this.
Remember now, this is a mixed pair team competition, so that could hurt their team. She had a couple of form breaks and a sloppy landing on the dismount.
This is her second release move. As you can see, it's way up above the bar, but she does have little form deductions.